broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us on this third webinar regarding the Engineering and Manufacturing T level. Today on this webinar, we are going to be talking about Engineering, Manufacturing and Processing Control. Or those that previously worked with us is called Manufacturing Process Control. That's the official title, so Engineering, Manufacturing, Process and Control. In this webinar today, if you've got a section on your screen called handouts, if you click on the handout link, you'll notice that there is a PDF version of the PowerPoint that I am going through today with you. So just click on that PowerPoint and then just download it and you can see all the information. The PowerPoint is also interactive as well, so any links that I'm sharing on the screen, you can also click on that PowerPoint as well, and it'll take you directly to that website where I'm sharing this information from. So using the webinar platform today, you've all been set as mute, but again, if you need any speak to us, then please raise your hand and we can actually speak to you, we can unmute you. Any direct questions throughout the webinar, then please put it directly into the question section or into the chat section. And then within there, you will be able to access the questions. And then my team members on the call, which is Robert Stott and Michael Scarrett, they will be able to answer your questions whilst being live on the screen. As I said, I've shared the PowerPoint and that's in the handout. And also after the event, you will be receiving a CPD certificate and also a recording of this event as well. So some of you might as well already know us and been to several events, but I'm Sam Ashman. I'm the technical advisor here at City and Guilds for Engineering, and I've been working closely with providers on the T level for engineering and manufacturing. We've also got Simon York, who is our now senior technical advisor, and he's now stepping down from the engineering, but still a part of the engineering portfolio, but also looking after us as technical advisors as well. We've also got Alison Whittle, our technical advisor for Post 16, and she's been working closely with our HEIs, our UTCs, and also regarding the progression and development as well. We've got Robert Stott, who's also on the call today. We'll be answering some of your questions, and he's our industry manager for Engineering and Manufacturing T level. He's been working closely with our industry managers and also our employers regarding the actual content, and also working closely with our HEIs and PIs as well. We've got Scott Wilkins, our other industry manager for engineering and manufacturing. He's also been working on our other portfolio evidence, such as endpoint assessment and engineering qualifications. And again, that nice link into employment. And because the T level is in collaboration with EAL, we've got Michael Scarrett, our product specialist, who's also been working across the BSE pathway as well for the T level. So Robert and Michael are on the call today. So we've got a big agenda this afternoon regarding the manufacturing process control pathway. So just going to give you a quick overview of what the T level is and the guided learn hours, and then we're going to go straight into the pathway of manufacturing process and control. So how to get the specifications, how to find this information on the website, and also resources to deliver this qualification. Then I'm going to look at each occupational specialism in a bit more detail, and also look at the sample assignments that we will be releasing to you as guided sample assessment materials. We're then going to look at how we're going to support you in future guidance and also provider approval processes. And then we have Duncan, who's going to be joining us later on to talk about the opportunities to work with us at City and Guilds and around the T level itself. And then last of all, we've got some information to share with you from Hodder Education regarding the engineering textbook that's going to be released as well. So as you may well know, that the engineering manufacturing T level is in two parts. So you've got the core and the occupational specialism. The core was done in our previous webinar, and we're now going to concentrate on the occupational specialism. So the occupational specialism is at 50% of the total qualification time. It's based on the occupational map, so the engineering standards, and it's going to be marked as pass, merit and distinction. Within that occupational specialism, we've got that practical skills and also that knowledge as well. And it's going to be assessed by a synoptic assignment. So the synoptic assignment is going to be developed by us at City and Guilds, marked by yourself, and then moderated by us at City and Guilds. In addition to all that lot, we've got that core, which was assessed by externally set exams and marked by us. And then we've got that industry placement, and then the learners with a new government requirement is working towards a level 2 functional skills, but do not need to complete that. We've also then got that additional element of tutorials as well. So that's a T level for engineering and manufacturing in overview. So the guided learning hours for this T level is still the same. So it's 680 guided learning hours for the core and 680 guided learning hours for the occupational specialism, giving a total of 1,360 guided learning hours. So in a context, A levels about 1,080. We've worked it out roughly about 3.5 A levels for this T level overview. So the technical qualification for engineering is split into 3 pathways, with a generic engineering core that everyone completes. And we're going to be looking at the engineering, manufacturing and process and control pathway. So the engineering and manufacturing process control pathway is split into 4 occupational specialisms. And on this one, we've got fitting and assembly technologies, machining and toolmaking technologies, composite manufacturing technologies, and fabrication and welding technologies. And what we're going to do in this webinar, we're going to go in those individually and look at that specification and the occupational specialism assessment. So the specification can be downloaded from our website, and these are the live versions. And also on that PDF that I've allocated in that handout section, if you click on the link under T-level engineering manufacturing control as shown on the screen, you'll then go to a hyperlink will directly to our website, so you can actually look at that version of that specification. You also got the opportunity to via the T-level landing page as well, which is right at the top of the screen. So if you didn't have this webinar or this PDF, then how do you get to our specifications? So our website, in the search engine at the top, you type in 8713 and then press search. Under the search section, you'll see that we have listed as T-level technical qualification in engineering and manufacturing. Once you click on that link, you will then go directly to the specification page. Alternatively, what you can do is go via our T-level landing page. So on our T-level landing page, you go to T-levels at the top and then look for a section called providers, or again, click on that link there and it will send you direct to that landing page. Once you're on that provider homepage, you'll notice it will say engineering and manufacturing. Click on that link and then you can select the qualification as shown below. So within the website navigation, what you have got, you've got the specification as shown on the screen, and it will then link directly to this page here. The information section is just about what the T-level it is and how it's being put together and what needs to be performed to complete the T-level. And then under documentation section, you then click on that link on there and you can then download the specification. So once you've got the specification open, We're then going to now look at the physical resources for this specification. So the physical resources for this manufacturing, processing and control pathway is on page 13 onwards. And as you can see on the screen, we've got two of the pathways identified, so fitting and assembly technologies and machining and toolmaking technologies. So for fitting and assembly technologies, we need a variety of materials, tools and equipment, measuring equipment and workshop machinery to complete the task. For machining and toolmaking technologies, again, you still need that materials and tools and equipment, but on this one, you're going to need some power tools, some hand tools, and some measuring equipment as well. And you notice in between the two different ones, we then start looking at different types of workshop machinery. So this one, we've got CNC lathes, milling machines, routers and cutters, where on the fitting assembly, we've got milling machines, lathes, 3D printers, hand drills, etc. So different tasks and different practical skills that the learners need to use on. So for this section, we've now identified as composite manufacturing technologies and fabrication and welding technologies. So composite manufacturing, you've got that different types of material, different types of composites that you need to be working with. You've also got the types of equipment. So in here, we need to have specific equipment for hand layup, spray layup, pre-preg layup, resin infusion and automated layup. And again, some different types of workshop equipment, such as injection equipment, freezer, sanding and finish equipment, humidity meters, etc. So things that you might see in a factory using composite materials. In the fabrication and welding part, you've got a general overview of what is required in a fabrication and welding workshop. But again, we've got a variety of different welding equipment, such as MIG, TIG, mags, etc. And then we've also got some forging equipment identified as well. So these are the types of resources that we will expect the learners to be working with when completing their practical assessment on their occupational specialism. So what we've got now is what the actual qualification scheme component is. So within this specialism, and if you joined our previous webinars, these have a different variety of durations on different tasks. So fitting assembly is 25 hours and 15 minutes, machine and tool making is 25 hours and 15 minutes, composite manufacturing is 24 hours and 15 minutes, and fabrication and welding is 26 hours and 15 minutes. So different tasks have different durations to complete the assessments. The mark scheme is still at 90 marks and the weighting is still at 100%, and it's going to be externally moderated. So again, marked by yourselves and externally moderated by us. And the final award for this will be pass, merit and distinction. So just in summary, so it contains 90 marks, a variety of duration across the different occupational specialisms, externally set by us, internally marked by yourselves, and externally moderated by us. It's an overarching project brief. It has a range of individual tasks that are mapped to the performance outcomes per specialism, and we'll look at those in a bit more detail. And then we've also got the mark schemes that's going to reflect their individual performance. And the mark scheme is classified as a threshold learner, i.e. a pass, and to a distinction learner. So you've got different mark schemes to apply for this assessment. What we're going to do now, we're going to look at these occupational specialisms in a bit more detail. And we're going to start off with our fitting and assembly technology. So the fitting and assembly technology has performance outcomes weighted, and they are weighted at 17% for PO2, so analysing, 20% for planning, 27% for producing, 20% for supporting the delivery material, so other words, monitoring the processes and doing quality checks, and then 16% producing that communication. What you also notice on this specification is that there's no collaboration working with others like D&D and MIR. So again, it's more about analysing, planning, producing, quality checking, and then communications. And the weightings for each of the performance outcome will remain the same for every version of that practical assignment in fitting and assembly technologies. And this is to making sure that we're meeting the industry needs and it's comparable between each assessment over the time of the qualification. To find a bit more information, then we're going to look at what is an occupational specialist assignment. And you can find that on page 33 in the specification. So as previously, like I said, it's externally set, internally marked and externally moderated. And for the fitting assembly technologies, we're going to be doing analysis, planning, producing, supporting and communications. And with the assessment overview for fitting and assembly, we're going to do these assessment themes that will be marked against those grades, so threshold to distinction. And that's going to be health and safety, planning and preparing, production, and quality review and evaluation. So the specification for fitting assemblies can be found on page 84 onwards. And as you can see, there's a snippet of the screen there, and it's identified with a code of 331. So when registering learners, you'll notice that it's going to be under 331. So within this type, we're going to be looking at scientific methods and principles of using materials, the tools and equipment, regulatory and legal requirements, get that right, project management, quality inspection, drawings, planning and preparing, and communicating. Within the specification for fitting and assembly, we've got those performance outcomes. So as you notice, we've got underpinning knowledge outcome 1, and then performance outcome starts on 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 will be assessed by the practical assignment. And in addition to that, we've got those digital skills, maths and English, where the learners can develop those skills further. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at the knowledge part and how to interpret it, the specification. So as you've seen on the screen, it's from page 86 onwards, and this is how it looks like within the qualification. So the learning outcome is at the top, so that's 1.1, which is planning, preparing, implementing, manufacturing and processing activities. We then got the range, and the range is put together for topics that needs to be delivered and assessed. So in this one, the learner's going to need to know about types of planning, technical information, scale of work, and cost breakdown posts and other factors. In addition to that, we have details of what part of the topic is. So for example, in engineering drawings, within the bracket, we've got design, tooling, detail, sub-assembly and assembly. So in other words, when teaching that topic, we need to go into those key areas in a bit more detail. Then got that box down at the bottom called what do learners need to learn? And within there, we've got the primary purpose of that delivery section. So, for example, the learners need to know the difference between the scale of work in production, manufacturing and processing activities. And within that range section, we've got how to plan and prepare for that activities as well. So that is a type of questions that the learners will need to ask when completing those practical assignments. In this one here, in the skills section, it says not applicable, but usually we have some numbers on theirs, which we'll see on the next slide. And they relate to the core skills, so English, maths and digital. So if you see anything what's got E, that's in English, anything what's got M is a maths, and anything what's got a D, that's a digital skills. And those are identified within the specification of what type of skills these are. We're then now going to look at the practical skills for the fitting and assembly. So it's the same setup. The only difference is that we have got what do learners need to demonstrate in the pink box now. So in this, these are primary skills that the learners need to demonstrate during that practical assessment and also completing that practical assignment that we're going to be set. So they will need to learn and demonstrate how to set up tools and equipment to carry out cutting, drilling, sawing and fitting, select the most appropriate method to produce a component, use hand and machine cutting tools to manipulate materials into shape, and also fastening components together such as a range of different assemblies. And as you can see, identified on this one, we've got some skills identified, and that's to the math skills. So MC1 is mathematical skills, and it's going to be under skills 1 to 5. We've also got some range as well in there, so different types of methods. So during a practical session, the learner should be learning how to cutting and sawing using different sawing techniques, drilling using different drilling techniques, fitting using different fitting techniques, and also then drilling using different drilling techniques as well. So that's what we're expecting the learners to do to complete that practical assessment on the OS. So we're going to look at the Exemplar assignment now, and we're going to produce these practical completion for you, and also give an example of the written report regarding for a pass learner and a distinction learner, or a threshold learner and a distinction learner. And these are going to be available on our website. If you're wanting to find any further information or want to come to our validation events, then please do get in touch, as we can invite you to these events, and we are running these from next week as well. So the OS Exemplar assignment brief for fitting and assemblies technologies. And this is just a snippet out of the actual assignment brief, because we do supply you with the actual drawings of the Drig Jill assembly. No point putting them on here today. You'll be able to see that when we put it onto our website. But again, if you do like a copy of this, then do please let us know. So the assignment brief is that you're working as a fitter maintenance engineer in a large-scale fabrication facility, and you need to create a jig that is going to do more than 100 parts per batch, a new component jig, yeah? In other words, drilling some holes and some spacers. So you need to create a drill jig to drill a series of holes in spacers, quality test that drill jig, produce a sample drill part for the quality check, evaluate your processing, and present your finding to your supervisor in a handover meeting. So the allocated time for that task is 25 hours and 15 minutes, and it's been split into 3 parts. So task 1 is your planning stage, which is 3 hours. Task 2 is classed as 18 hours, so that's going to be the practical stage, i.e. producing that drill jig. And then task 3 is the quality check as well as the meeting with the supervisor, and that's been allocated to 4 hours and 15 minutes. Again, these are all going to be under supervised control conditions, and when breaks are being taken, they're making sure that the room is locked and all material is kept securely during that break time. So everything must be put away and then brought back out after the break. So the tasks for this fitting and assembly part, we've got this task 1, which is the planning stage. So the planning stage, the candidate's got to analyse the brief and produce resources to produce that production of that drill jig. They're then going to produce a risk assessment covering all the activities, a method statement with justifications and reason why they are selecting those activities, a work plan of how to produce that jig in step-by-step stages, a quality check that's going to be used in task 2, or commissioning check in task 2, and a quality check in task 3A. And then if they're using any equipment, they need to then carry out calibration checks on measuring equipment as well. So such as your calipers, your go-no gauges, your DTIs, etc. So they need to make sure that they got some calibrating as well. And under that task, we've got some resources that we expect the learners to be using. Within task 2, they're now going to prepare the work area, produce the drill jig using both hand tools and workshop machinery. And on the drawing itself, it will tell you if it's going to be made by hand or it's going to be made by machine. Commission the assembly and complete the commissioning check list, what they've produced in task 1. And then reinstate the work area following the production of the drill jig assembly. So in other words, putting the workshop back to nice and tidy as it was originally. And again, there's some resources on there that we expect the learners to use, and also the types of materials that they're going to be working with. So low carbon mild steel for the plate, mild steel for the locating rods, and we expect them to be supplied with bolts and dowels and press fit bushes for the manufacturing part. So in task 3A, we've got that quality review. So in other words, carrying out that full quality inspection to complete that drill jig and record the findings on that quality check sheet that they completed in task 1. And then produce a sample drilled part. So in other words, using that drill jig to produce a sample task. In task 3B, they're going to be evaluating it. So in other words, what went right, what went wrong, did they make the component finishes correct sizes, what happened to the drilled sample part, did it work well, any improvements they could see with that drill jig, or any adaptations, or what can reoccurring, so it might have lifted up when trying to drill, for example. So in other words, evaluating what they've completed, and it's roughly around about 800 words long. Once all that's been completed, they then need to submit all that lot to their supervisor, or the assessor who's going to be acting as a supervisor, to complete the handover procedure. So confirming that the work has been completed, an overview of the finding in the quality inspection report, suggesting improvements to design or produce processes, and the final part will be handing over the drill jig assembly and sample parts and quality inspection records as well. And we expect that done in that completed time. So that just gives an overview of fitting assembly, and we're now going to look at the next topic, which is machining and tool making. So within machining and tool making, we've still got those performance outcomes, but these have been identified as different to fitting and assembly. And this is because of the depth of the practical sections that needs to be completed. So with this one, we've got a performance outcome of analysing at 17%, planning at 21%, producing that component at 27%, supporting that delivery, or in other words, doing that quality check and processes at 19%, and then communicating part is going to be at 16%. So a bit different from the fabrication and the fitting and assembly task. So as you can see, a bit more in depth that we need for the learners to complete within this section. So the MPC machining tool making part, you can see some bit information about that on page 33 in the specification. And again, we've got those assessment themes that the learner is going to be assessed via to get that threshold and distinction grade. So health and safety, planning and preparation, production, and quality review and evaluation. And then we've also got that content overview where we've got analysing, plan, produce, support, and communicate. So this specification can be found on page 109, and it gives a title code of 332. Again, the knowledge part, I'm not going to go into the knowledge of the practical skills in detail like I did for fitting and assembly. It's the same way of how to interpret the specification. But the knowledge can be found on page 111 onwards, and the practical skills is on page 121 onwards. And with this one, the learners are going to do looking at tools and fixtures to aid manufacturing of a new or changed component, how to set up and select safely operations, producing products to specification and suitable methods and techniques, undertake preventive plan maintenance, check for faults and diagnostics, and utilising project management and process improvement. And again, we've still got that knowledge section and that skills performance outcome section as well. So the OS Exemplar assignment for machining and tool making, we've got this one on the screen now. And as you can see, it's a bearing assembly they need to produce. And it's allocated hours of 25 hours and 15 minutes for this one. So this is going to be employed as a research and development department of a local engineering company. Asked to produce a bearing assembly to be used in a roller assembly of bespoke conveyor systems. And the bearing assembly is to manufacture using low carbon steel and nylon. And it's got to be produced using the lathe and the milling machine. So the learner's got to create a new bearing assembly, use manual and pre-programmed CNC machine to manufacture component, carry out production checks, make adjustments to component as required, quality checks, evaluate the processes, and present your findings to your supervisor. And again, we will supply you with the dimensions and drawings for the bearing assembly as well. So within task 1, we've got that planning stages where we need to analyse the brief, produce the risk assessment, a method statement and a work plan. So similar to what we did on fitting and assembly. Task 2 is that production. So they've got to do 2 ways of producing this. So we've got to have a manual and pre-programmed compute CNC machine specification. So they'll be accessing a manual lathe and CNC center lathe, and also a conventional manual milling machine. Apply suitable surface treatment to the finished component. So anti-corrosion surface treatment such as degreaser, lubricants, sprays, tools, oils, etc. Commission the assembly and then reinstate the work area following the completion of that bearing assembly. And again, the materials have been identified as low carbon mild steel billet for the shoulder shaft, low carbon mild steel billet to the machine bearing housing, and a nylon rod billet to the top hat bearing. So there's the types of materials that the learners need to have access to. So in this one here, we've got task 3A, which is our quality review. So in other words, carrying out a full quality inspection and recording those findings. And that also using that quality check sheet that they completed and designed in task 1. In task 3B, we've got that evaluation and recording. So in other words, evaluating what they've completed. And then task 3C, we've got that handover meeting. So in other words, handing over all the information that they've completed so far, and also the bearing assembly for what they've completed in task 2. So the next occupation we're going to look at is going to be Composite Manufacturing Technologies. So again, with Composite Manufacturing Technologies, the performance outcome has changed. And this is because there is a lot of hours and a lot of time to complete the production of the moulds. So therefore, PO4 is now at 43% weighting. So analysing at 10%, planning is 28%, producing that composite mould is at 43%, supporting the delivery is 10%, and then the communication part is at 9%. So a bit different from the other two, but you can see where it's been weighted and the different parts within it. So the specification for bit by composite manufacturing is on page 33 onwards. So that bit about what the occupational specialist assignment is, and also the content overview. And again, it's still the assessment themes are still going to be the same. So health and safety, planning, preparation, production, quality review, and evaluation. And again, we're going to be analysing, planning, producing, supporting, and communicating as well. So the specification for composite manufacturing has been given a title as 333, and that can be found on page 137 onwards. The skills are on page 152 onwards, and the knowledge is on page 139 onwards. And within this composite manufacturing technology, We are going to talk about composite manufacturing quality inspections, using different types of composite manufacturing techniques, also using fault finding techniques as well, and also planning and preparing using composite products. So really a hands-on practical assignment to complete for the learner. So the example assignment for composite manufacturing, so what you've got is a completed assembly view of the product. And this one here, you have asked to produce assembly to use a spacer block within the aerospace industry to ensure the correct spacing of wing skins in a jig during the manufacturing process. Each component has a number of piles which are laid up on a platen or onto a core material. And you're going to get the technical drawings for all different parts of the composite process. So the learners need to create a sample spacer block assembly using composite material and a vacuum bag condensated method. They need to perform in production quality checks to ensure the dimensions and make up any requirement adjusted to confirm the specification. They're then going to do the quality test. They're then going to evaluate. We're going to identify any faults, and then we're going to record and present the findings. And this has been given an allocated time of 24 hours and 15 minutes, where the practical task section is 16 hours. So with this sampler, we've got different types of tasks. So task 1 is your planning. So within that, we've got to do produce a risk assessment, analyse the brief, method statement, work plan, quality checks and calibrations. Task 2A is being allocated as a preparing the mould section. So they need to prepare the work area, prepare the mould and reinstate it, and different types of mould they require. And then task 2B is going to be production of the spacer block and component, where we're going to prepare the work area for laying up activity, construct the spacer block component, i.e. marking out and cutting material, laying up, curing and demoulding, and then reinstate the workplace. And for the resources that we've identified what type of material is recommended. We've also typed in what type of laminating consumables we need to do as well. So a variety of different resources for the composites, what we'd expect learners and centres to have. So we continue for task 2C, is then going to be the assembly. So in other words, we're going to prepare the work area for assembly activity, complete the spacer block assembly, demonstrating the bonding process, the curing process, and trimming and finishing process. And again, those types of resources that we're going to expect the learners to use as well. For task 3A, we've got that defect identification. So in other words, the candidates need to carry out a defect identification inspection of the prefabricated defect sample assembly, and then suggest processes that should be introduced or modified to prevent defects that are present in the defect sample assembly from reoccurring in future production runs. And they're expected to have a prefabricated defect sample assembly to be looking at, some materials, as well as some calibration tests as well. And again, on there, one part says measuring equipment with calibration certificate as well. We then go directly back into the quality review, just like the other previous assessments. And then we've also got that handover task as well, where we're going to complete the spacer block assembly, quality inspection report, and anything that needs to be handed over to complete the section. So with composites being a bit more detailed and a bit more separate individual tasks, then the final one in this pathway is going to be Fabrication and Welding Technologies. So Fabrication and Welding Technologies, again, this performance outcome has also changed. So PO2 is at 13%, PO3 19%, PO4 35%, PO5 21%, and PO6 is at 12%. So different types of performance outcomes and weightings on this assessment. As previously identified, you can find about what fabrication welding is going to be, assessment method is going to be, and that can be found on page 33 onwards within the specification. And again, we're still using those assessment themes to be assessing the learner against. The specification for fabrication and welding is on page 166 onwards. The knowledge is on from page 168 onwards, and the practical skills is on page 176 onwards. And with this one, we're going to talk about different types of machinery and technology used in fabrication and welding, the processes and procedures used in fabrication and welding, skills in analysing technical documentation, and also producing products to specification as well. So the exemplar for this one is shown on the screen, and it's an anchor that they need to complete. And we've allocated this one as 26 hours and 15 minutes, where task 2, the practical section, is allocated of 20 hours to complete. So the learner will need to fabricate all parts of that anchor as shown on that screen. So the stock, the crown, the shank, the fluke and support. And then once it's been fabricated and welded, they then need to use a non-destructive test method to see if it's welded correctly. So again, a bit more hands-on with the practical side in the workshop and making sure that it meets the requirements. So with this one, we've got that planning stage and production stage. And again, welding equipment, so they need to use 2 from TIG, MIG, MAG and MMA. They need to use some forging equipment. They need some cutting equipment and abrasive equipment as well. And the material required is 6mm mild steel plate, 6mm mild steel round bar, 10mm mild steel flat bar, a mild steel chain which has got to be prefabricated, so otherwise be given to them, a shackle, again prefabricated and given to them, and the pin as well. And that will be identified on the drawings within the occupational specialist assignment. We then got the tasks part, so quality review, handover and evaluating recording. So similar to the other ones, except regarding the quality review, we've got an NDT test result sheet that needs to do as well. And what they need to do for that non-destructive testing is test it on 3 different welds. So within that anchor, 3 different areas that needs to be non-destructive tested. So within all these assessments, right at the back of the actual briefs are the marking grids. So the marking grids is identified regarding those assessment themes. So previously, health and safety, planning, quality checks, etc. And within this one, for example, is the assessment theme is health and safety. And health and safety is going to go across task 1, 2, 3A and 3C. And this is taken from the fabrication and welding one. Within there, we've got that indicative content, and that indicative content is what we're expecting to see regarding the learner's work regarding health and safety. So in other words, have they identified the correct checks and preparation of resources? Have they identified different types of isolation procedures? Have they identified the correct use of PPE? So a lot of information that we expect to see on those sheets when they complete those and-in assessments. You then got the marking band grids. So for example, the one on the screen shown there is marking per band. So 1 to 4 is our pass learner, 9 to 12 is our distinction learner. So risk for this one, for example, the risk assessment is mostly completed and covers some of the major risk factors, where a 9 to 12 band learner is risk assessments identify all the major risks and all associated risks as well. So that bit more detail and information that we expect to see on those parts. So that's just to give an overview of what a marking grid looks like. So that comes to the end of our OSs, and now we're going to look at how we're going to support you. So we can support you via different communications, so webinars, network events, face-to-face, e-bulletins that you should have received this week from us, and email updates, and also directly through our website as well. Our website, we've got loads of information on there. So we've got the timeline, so all the different types of events that we are hosting. And the next one will be curriculum planning, and also the Ask the T-Level Expert sessions. We've got some provider focus groups that's going to be starting to put together and emailing you out to discuss best practices and types of resources that to be used. Our employee industry board is up and running. You can come and join us, and we'll get your employees to come and join us. And again, please contact our industry manager, Robert Stott, for further information. Like I say, we've got our e-bulletins and our specifications. For recruitment days or passing information to potential students, we've also created a learner flyer. And again, you can click on that link as well, and that will take you directly to our flyer homepage as well. And of course, you've got that myself as the technical advisor to help you with the support and delivery of this T-level. So coming up, we've got some webinars, like I said previously, regarding curriculum planning. Still doing face-to-face events, so if you want to do this or get me in to do a delivery to your team or any of the information, then do get in touch. The T-Level Experts question session is going to be starting from next month, so please look out for links to that. All our events are recorded, and also we share our slide decks as well. But again, you've got that handout in the event today, and you can click on that link on there, and you find all our latest events and also webinars to register to. We've got an engineering go-to channel. What's got all our webinars. So on there now at the minute is the webinars from design and development and maintenance, installation, repair, occupational specialism. So you can click on there and have a listen to those. And then anything regarding our e-bulletin, you can click on there for future events and also find out past bulletins as well. Some events that are going to come up soon is regarding the provider approval process, and this is going to be from the 4th of Feb. And this is just going to identify what you're going to need to get that provider approval process to deliver a T-level through us at City and Girls. From there, we're then going to do the webinar in March, and that's going to be regarding engineering, BSc and construction, and what you're going to need for that prior approval activity. And also get you introduced to what we call our technical quality associates. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail. If you're also offering management and administration on the same day, again, we've still got that approval webinar event as well. So as we always keep updating through the government, we also get some lovely links as well. So again, if you click on those links, it will take you directly to our website support and some delivery guidance, and also give you some introduction and updates regarding how funding. One main important is regarding the transition programme. So you can see some further information on there, and also some future events that other supporting people are going to put us on as well, such as the ETF or the AOC. I'm now going to pass you over to Duncan, who's going to talk about the T-level associate vacancies and other vacancies we have at City and Girls. Over to you, Duncan.
Hi Sam, thanks a lot. Really interesting hearing from that side of the delivery. It was just a shout out really to everybody on the call. You know, great to hear that you're involved from the provider side of things. Just to really reinforce that we are also keen to get as many people involved in the awarding body side as well. So we do have a variety of roles. You can see some of them that Sam's put on the screen there. In this area, T-level, so we've got TQA roles and leads in those areas. We also have moderation, endpoint assessment, EQA opportunities, writing opportunities. So I just encourage you to have a think. I know you're all exceptionally busy, It might not be for you, but there might be people that you think might be interested. Sam's kindly put the link in there where all our vacancies are advertised. T-level roles we are training currently. So if you're particularly in engineering, if you're interested in getting involved, then we've got training sessions coming up that are being delivered remotely. It's not a massive commitment. And as I say, all the stuff's on the website. It explains what you need and what you need to commit to. But I'm happy to have conversations with anybody or answer any questions. And I know Sam is equally happy to have that discussion as well. So thanks for the couple of minutes, Sam, and thanks for inviting me.
No problem, Duncan, and thank you for joining us. So again, do get in touch with us regarding these associate vacancies. It's really good shout out. One of the associates who's just gone through that training advertised that is now a T-level associate for light and electric vehicles. So it's nice to get that shout out as well on LinkedIn and social regarding how good our training is as well. So do get in touch. The last part of our presentation is now going to be regarding the Engineering and Manufacturing T-level core textbook. So as part of this, Hodder Education is producing a textbook regarding the core components. We're also producing resources as well, so they will be free of charge from us. But this one goes in a bit more detail than what we produce. So it's going to give you a complete coverage of the T-level core components. It prepares the students for the examinations and the ESP. It's going to be published around about autumn, so autumn 2022, and it's going to be available in two formats. So prints are at £34 and ebooks are £11 per year. If you want any information, then do click on that email and contact Gemma Simpson, and she will be able to share an advanced sample chapter with you regarding the T-level core for engineering and manufacturing. In addition to that T-level handbook, we've also got some chapters such as the learning outcomes, the key terms, industry tips, research, different types of case studies, project practices, for other words, completing those projects in the workplace as well, assessment practices, in other words, knowledge-based practice questions to prepare for the examinations, and then also sections regarding the maths and English as well to improve for the learners. So an ideal textbook for learners who wants to study a T-level in engineering and manufacturing. So that comes to the end of the webinar. Just like to say thank you for joining us. I'm just going to ask Mike or Rob to see if any questions on the screen that's not been already been answered. So Mike, Rob, is there anything to share with our delegates?
Hi Sam, yeah, just a couple of questions in the chat. I thought it'd be good to sort of go through them on the screen. So quite a few people saying that they're a bit concerned that the practical assessments won't be released until quite close to when they're actually going to be taking them. Could you give a little bit more information when they will actually get released? And also in terms of resources, in terms of materials, parts, etc., that will be needed for the assessments across each of those occupational specialisms. Will the centres get any prior notice as to what materials to get in stock, etc., ready for those assessments? So I just thought it'd be good to go through that on the screen at the end.
Yep, so within the actual specification section, there is a key schedule assessment when we're going to start releasing materials. Also on our website, so if you go to the resource section called the Resource Hub for T-levels, there is a section there called Key Dates, and currently on there is Construction and BSc, and it identifies when assessment materials will be delivered and when they will be released as well. We are doing that for engineering, and we will be able to share that with you shortly. We have got some couple of webinars coming up regarding those key assessment dates. But again, what we're hoping to do is, like we do with our technicals, is share what types of resources you're going to need for the occupational specialism, but not release the actual brief as yet. So please just keep in touch with us and see through that resource hub to find any further information. Anything else, Rob?
No, there were just a couple of at the beginning, just regarding access to other webinars, such as the one that you did yesterday. So I know you've gone through that already on the screen. So no, they were the only questions just in terms of resources, and I think you just answered those. So I think that should be very useful to those people who are asking.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for joining us. Hope to speak to you soon. Again, do get in touch with us, do email us. We are here to help and support you through this T-level, and we'll look forward to working with you shortly. And thank you.